Hey, Armand here with your forecast for the week of October 7th, 2019. All right, this is quick and dirty summary over here. This is a week when we are going to continue to feel the Plutonian struggle. We're going to have some Saturnian constraints, but the overall theme of this week is liberation and moving past constraints. Your strategy this week is to break routine. Don't let the shoulds and the musts get the better of you this week. Do what you have to do, but don't put extra things on yourself. You know, a lot of the constraints that we feel are ultimately ones that we put on ourselves, and you want to kind of avoid that this week. It's the week of the full moon in Aries at the very tail end of the week, at the weekend, and we'll be building towards that, as always, with some very high energy. We'll get into that at when we talk about the weekend a little bit further along. Just to give you a couple of heads up on things that are happening. On Tuesday, Venus moves from Libra, one of her home signs, into Scorpio. Socializing, romance, and so on becomes much more serious, much more what really matters at the core of things. This is the shift that we've been feeling now from the Libran formalities, grace, and manners into Scorpionic. None of that really matters. What matters is the core. And so that's the theme that we'll be feeling in socializing, romance, and also, too, finances. Venus in Scorpio tends to lend a little bit of caution to all of those things, particularly finances. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, so let's get started with the week. We start out on Monday with at the earliest hours of Monday, we had a Mercury. I know the planets. Yeah, the Mercury-Uranus opposition. And the Aquarius moon, Uranus's sign of Aquarius, the Aquarius moon keeps that going through Monday. It's a very brilliant ideas, new insights type of aspect. With Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, words could be a little sharp, and perhaps there would be a little bit of a tendency to kind of sting a bit. So you don't want to get your message across, cruelly or anything like that, and you want to be direct as possible, rather than that sort of scorpionic, coming from behind, stinging type of thing. So, try to avoid sarcasm and things like that. Now, at the same time, while we have this big sort of freedom-loving, big perspective kind of energy very prominent, we also have the Sun in Libra square to Saturn in Capricorn. This is an aspect that is liable to keep us working, to keep us focused, and it is sort of almost the opposite energy of Mercury-Uranus. It's very much a kind of conservative, play-by-the-rules type of energy. I could see this playing out. It was really hard not to come up with political kinds of analogies for this, but I'm going to try to avoid that, although it could easily happen. This is the kind of, the CEO goes into the boardroom for a meeting and has to deliver a rather surprising message, something along those lines. We maintain formality, right? But the actual content is liable to be rather shocking. At any rate, Monday is a day to work with diligence. And that same vibe continues through Tuesday. Now, it depends where you are, because the moon is void for just about 24 hours, from about noon on Tuesday to noon on Wednesday, Eastern time in the United States. That means that if you're in Europe, you get almost all of the workday Tuesday, but the moon is void all day Wednesday. If you're on the west coast of the U.S., on the other hand, it's the opposite, and it actually turns out to be that you have Wednesday free. Wednesday is free of a void, so you can continue working. It depends where you are. You know what you want to do? You want to go to armanddiaz.com. The link is below, and you want to sign up for a newsletter. That's the good strategy to find the particulars of it. As we move into Thursday, one other thing about Tuesday. Venus goes into Scorpio. Mars is opposite Chiron. Now, this is liable to play out in the background. I don't know that this is going to be a big thing for a lot of folks, but the operative word here is doubt. We could have self-doubt. I think self-doubt is Chiron and Aries. Mars over in Libra is not really in a great position to sort of help the matter. And so there could be some self-doubt that creeps in, especially with the Sun square Saturn on Monday. The overall effect of this could be a little bit of a weight on you in terms of, it's not real feel-good stuff in terms of the ego. You just got to work through that. That's a good Monday, Tuesday strategy. You know, do what you got to do, take care of things, share your brilliant ideas. Don't expect it to be some sort of ego stroking kind of time that you're going to get a big reward. You know, look how great things are going. Wednesday, we get the whole void thing. We deal with it. The moon goes into Pisces later on Wednesday, and Wednesday and Thursday, I would say later Wednesday and certainly Thursday is probably your best time to get a lot of things done. There's more flowing kind of energy. We've got a lot of energy because we're coming towards the full moon, but we're not quite there yet. There's a lot of easy aspects. It's Pisces after all. I'm sensing that that would probably be a pretty good time to get things done. It's a good time for business meetings and things along those lines. It's probably a good time for socializing. It's a very good time for creative projects. But I mean, I think that it's just generally like the day in the week to get things done. Friday, the moon is void essentially all day long. What happens, you see, is that Mercury and Venus went from the end of Libra and into Scorpio, and then Mars went from the end of Virgo into the beginning of Libra. So there aren't that many planets at the end of signs. As a result of that, we get very long moon voids, like Friday. And we get to the weekend. Oh boy, oh boy. On the weekend, we have the Aries full moon, right? Square to Pluto. Venus is opposite Uranus, and Jupiter is sextile to the sun. What an incredible alignment this is. Now, Jupiter Sun, that's going to kind of help us to bargain things out. That's a kind of negotiation thing, and we may really need that. Now, with the full moon in Aries, this is on Sunday, but the weekend for all practical purposes, but the full moon in Aries square to Pluto. Full moons bring things to light. Pluto brings things up from the depths. So what comes to light could be long buried secrets. We'll see this in the collective, and, you know, we could see it in our personal lives as well. So this is a time when things are going to come up. You know, some of it'll be like, you know, internal, like, wow, well, what am I learning about myself? And some of it'll be, what am I learning about you? So, you know, and in personal relationships and in business relationships and just, you know, in life, what a surprise. You know, things are coming up. What a surprise. Speaking of surprises, Venus in Scorpio, opposite Uranus in Taurus. Now, Taurus is Venus's first home sign. And so there's a nice kind of connection over here. I would say this. It's a time to break away from routine in relationships. Try something new. Try someone new if that's your thing. It's, you know, don't get stuck in the routine. That's your message for the entire week, really, anyway. But certainly in terms of relationship and socializing, there's a possibility of a kind of reversal, a sort of surprise in relationships. I could see it going towards greater intimacy or, in fact, pulling apart from intimacy. That's especially true if you have important relationship planets like Venus or something like that around the early degrees of fixed signs of just Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. But it's also true if your relationships are in a little bit of a vulnerable spot, or actually not only in a vulnerable spot, but in a sort of indecisive spot. You're not sure which way they're going to go. This Venus-Uranus aspect can kind of tip things that way. I would suggest it's a great time to just get out and just do something a little bit different. You know, your regular weekend routine's probably not going to feel great, but I mean, it's a very high energy, you know, full moon in Aries. This is, you know, this is a good, fiery, fun kind of energy. So you want to be doing something. You want to, you know, it's not really a good sort of sit at home and watch TV, unless that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, then do that. But it is definitely the sort of energy that would sort of push you out into the world to go do something, and that's true. It's true Saturday night, but it's also true Saturday and Sunday. You don't have to do everything at night. You don't have to do everything at night. You can do things when you want to do them, but break routine, go do something a little bit different. It should probably be quite a bit of fun. All right, so that's your week. We start with much more work orientation. Things flow a little bit more at midweek, and towards the weekend, things get very excited and hot. You want to break away from constraints. Breaking away from constraints is really kind of key, and remember where those constraints, where almost all of them really originate, with you. I'm not blaming you, but I'm saying most of our constraints actually originate with ourselves, and that's what we don't want to encourage. There's a need for freedom that's obvious all week long. Aquarius moon sets the tone, and the Venus-Uranus opposition at the other end of the week reaffirms it. You want to have a sense of freedom. You are going to feel some constraints. Let that Sun-Saturn square motivate you to move past them. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.